Think today's shows are strange? The 1970s took television to a whole new level. It was a wild playground of psychedelic visuals, magical worlds, and unforgettable characters. From superhero duos to talking cars and musical bugs, these shows weren't just entertainment, they were pure imagination. Let's rewind to 20 of the strangest and most beloved TV treasures of the 70s. 1. Fantasy Island. What if you could visit a magical island where every fantasy came true? But with a twist? That's the alluring premise behind Fantasy Island, one of the most imaginative and emotionally rich shows of the 1970s. Hosted by the ever-composed Mr. Rourke, portrayed with eerie charm by Ricardo Montalban, and his loyal assistant Tattoo, the island promised to grant your deepest desires, for a price. Each episode welcomed new guests, often played by well-known actors of the time, who arrived at the mysterious island hoping to fulfill dreams of love, revenge, fame, or adventure. But what began as joyful wish fulfillment quickly turned into soul-searching moral tales. Fantasies rarely played out as intended. Sometimes they brought closure, sometimes chaos. But they always delivered a lesson. What made Fantasy Island stand apart was its haunting undertone. Behind the paradise was an almost supernatural force at work. Rourke seemed more than human, almost godlike, presiding over lives with a knowing calm. It was never clear whether the island existed for good or as a trial for the human spirit. The series captivated audiences with its mix of romance, danger, comedy, and suspense. One week you might see a swashbuckling pirate adventure, the next a heartfelt reunion or chilling psychological twist. The setting was tropical, but the themes were universal: regret, hope, desire, and redemption. For viewers in the 70s, Fantasy Island wasn't just escapist television, it was a mirror reflecting the highs and lows of human nature. Who wouldn't want to step onto that island one more time, to chase a dream and uncover the truth hidden inside it? Second Land of the Lost. Imagine rafting down a river with your family, only to be swept through a time vortex and stranded in a prehistoric world filled with dinosaurs and danger. That was the wild premise behind Land of the Lost, a Saturday morning sensation that captured the minds of adventurous kids across the 1970s. The show followed the Marshall family, Rick, Will, and Holly, as they struggled to survive in a land untouched by time. With the terrifying roar of Grumpy the T-Rex and the eerie hiss of the mysterious Sleestax echoing in the distance, every episode was packed with suspense. But there was more than just monsters. The Marshalls discovered ancient temples, mysterious pylon structures, and a bizarre lost civilization that hinted at deep secrets beneath the surface. Unlike many shows aimed at young audiences, Land of the Lost dared to be smart. It wove in science fiction concepts like time travel, alternate dimensions, and alien technology. The plots were intricate, the stakes real, and the family dynamic provided an emotional core. Viewers didn't just watch the Marshalls survive, they watched them grow. The practical effects, while primitive by today's standards, were imaginative and charming. Miniature sets, rubber-suited dinosaurs, and glowing crystal tech added to the otherworldly atmosphere. It was clear that creativity, not budget, drove this show. For many children, Land of the Lost was their first taste of high-concept science fiction and epic world-building. It wasn't just a survival story, it was a thrilling, ongoing mystery. And even today, fans still dream of returning to that dangerous, enchanted land where dinosaurs roam and secrets are buried in the jungle shadows. The Muppet Show. Before there were CGI critters or motion capture marvels, there was a frog in a tuxedo running the most chaotic, hilarious variety show on television. The Muppet Show wasn't just a kids' program. It was a cultural phenomenon that bridged generations with music, mayhem, and Muppet magic. Hosted by the ever-patient Kermit the Frog, the show took place backstage at a fictional theater where a ragtag group of puppets attempted to put on a weekly performance. Nothing ever went according to plan. Miss Piggy's diva meltdowns, Fozzie Bear's terrible puns, Gonzo's dangerous stunts, and Animal's unhinged drumming always threatened to bring down the curtain. Literally, but beneath the chaos was heart. Jim Henson's creations were full of personality, charm, and vulnerability. The Muppets were more than puppets. They were reflections of our own awkwardness, ambition, and desire to belong. What made The Muppet Show revolutionary was its crossover appeal. While children laughed at the slapstick, adults were in on the sophisticated wordplay and musical parodies. The guest list was legendary. Elton John, Steve Martin, Liza Minnelli, and countless others showed up to sing, joke, and willingly be upstaged by Felt. Each episode was a whirlwind of sketches, music, and backstage shenanigans, often ending with a sweet moment of connection or a profound truth delivered in the gentlest way. The Muppets taught a generation that it was okay to be weird, to fail gloriously, and to laugh at life's madness. For those who watched in the 70s, the Muppets weren't just entertainment, they were family. And even now, there's something comforting in hearing Kermit croon, "It's not easy being green." 4. Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. What if your best friend was a runaway sea monster who just wanted to be loved? That's the whimsical heart of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, a delightfully oddball 70s series that became a beloved hidden treasure of children's television. The show centers on two brothers, Johnny and Scott, who discover a sea monster named Sigmund washed up on the beach. But Sigmund isn't scary. He's sweet, goofy, and downright lovable. Cast out by his own underwater family for refusing to scare humans, Sigmund becomes the boys' secret companion, leading to a whirlwind of misadventures as they try to keep him hidden from prying eyes. What made this show special was its innocence. Sigmund represented that childhood dream of having a magical creature as your best friend, one who'd be loyal, funny, and always up for an adventure. The humor was broad, the costumes wacky, and the heart undeniably real. Produced by Sid and Marty Krofft, masters of surreal children's programming, the show had a beachside charm mixed with bizarre visuals. Sea monsters in shaggy green suits, underwater homes made of seaweed, and slapstick chases made each episode a sensory carnival. But beneath the silliness, the show carried themes of friendship, acceptance, and loyalty. Sigmund, though strange, just wanted to belong, and who hasn't felt that way at some point? For kids in the 70s, Sigmund and the Sea Monsters was more than a fantasy. It was a celebration of kindness and the magic of believing that even the strangest among us deserved to be loved. 5th HR, Poof and Stoof. Step into a land where trees talk, clocks have faces, and nothing is quite as it seems. HR Poof and Stoof was the most surreal, psychedelic children's show of the 1970s, and it made Saturday mornings feel like a trip into a kaleidoscope dream. The story followed Jimmy, a young boy who gets whisked away to Living Island with his talking magic flute, Freddie. The island is ruled by the friendly, rotund, dragon-like mayor, HR Poof and Stoof, who becomes Jimmy's protector against the wicked Witchy Poo, an over-the-top villain with a flying broomstick and a flair for evil cackling. Each episode was a whimsical battle of good versus goofy evil, with Witchy Poo constantly trying to steal Freddie the flute. But what kept children glued to the screen wasn't just the plot, it was the pure strangeness of the world. Talking mushrooms, lollipop forests, and puppet sidekicks filled every scene. The show's design was unlike anything else on television. Bright colors, bizarre creatures, and funky music gave it a dreamlike quality that stuck in the memory long after the episode ended. But it wasn't just about the visuals. HR Poof and Stoof had heart. It was about friendship, loyalty, and standing up to bullies, even magical ones. For kids growing up in the 70s, the show was a weekly escape into a world where the impossible was real, and every day held a new adventure. Who wouldn't want to visit Living Island one more time? 6. The Secrets of Isis. Before Wonder Woman graced television screens, there was another heroine who blended myth, magic, and modern-day courage. The Secrets of Isis introduced viewers to Andrea Thomas, a humble high school science teacher who discovered a powerful amulet while on an archaeological dig. When she uttered the words, "O mighty Isis," she transformed into the goddess-like superhero Isis, armed with the power of the wind, superhuman strength, and a deep well of ancient wisdom. What made the show revolutionary wasn't just the action. It was the message. Isis wasn't a brute force fighter. She used her powers sparingly, preferring to reason, inspire, and teach those around her. Every episode was a moral lesson wrapped in mythological mystery and suspense. Whether she was helping a student confront peer pressure or stopping a thief from making a terrible mistake, Isis always used intelligence and empathy as her greatest tools. At a time when television was dominated by male heroes, Isis stood tall as a role model for girls and boys alike. She wasn't just powerful, she was principled. Her presence on screen sent a clear message. Strength and compassion aren't opposites. They go hand in hand. Visually, the show stood out with its Egyptian iconography, swirling magical effects, and desert backdrops that made it feel both educational and fantastical. And with Andrea transforming in slow-motion glory, kids across the country waited breathlessly for Isis to take flight. The secrets of Isis might be less remembered today, but it was a pioneer, laying the groundwork for future heroines. For fans of the 70s, she remains an icon of wisdom, courage, and grace. 7. Electra Woman and Dina Girl. Imagine if Batman and Robin were reimagined as two glamorous, fearless women with high-tech gadgets and plenty of sass. That's the spark behind Electra Woman and Dina Girl, a dazzlingly campy superhero series that brought bold female energy to 70s Saturday mornings. Electra Woman, the confident and brainy lead, teamed up with her spunky teenage sidekick, Dina Girl, to battle a rotating cast of over-the-top villains, from the evil Empress of Evil to the bumbling Glitter Rock. Armed with their Electrocom wrist gadgets and Electricar, they used wit, tech, and teamwork to save the day in every episode. Created by Sid and Marty Krofft, the series blended bright color palettes, futuristic sets, and tongue-in-cheek dialogue to create a show that was as much fun to watch as it was empowering. Though the special effects were delightfully low budget, the action moved fast and never felt stale. What set the show apart was its unapologetic embrace of girl power. At a time when female superheroes were rare, Electra Woman and Dina Girl proved that courage, cleverness, and camaraderie could be just as exciting as brute force. These weren't sidekicks, they were stars. Every episode ended with a win for justice, often with a comedic twist. And though it only lasted one season, the show left a lasting impact. It became a cult classic, later inspiring reboots and nostalgic revivals. For kids of the 70s, Electra Woman and Dina Girl wasn't just another superhero show. It was proof that heroes come in all shapes, sizes, and genders, and they can wear bright spandex while doing it. 8. Wonder Woman. Before the era of blockbuster superhero films, there was one woman spinning into action on television and capturing the hearts of millions. Wonder Woman, starring the radiant Linda Carter, brought strength, beauty, and justice into living rooms across the 1970s. The series began with Wonder Woman's origin story. Diana, an Amazonian princess from the hidden island of Themyscira, leaves her home to help fight tyranny during World War II. Clad in her iconic red, white, and blue outfit, and armed with her golden lasso of truth, bullet-deflecting bracelets, and invisible jet, she fought Nazis and spies in early episodes before transitioning into a modern-day setting. What made Wonder Woman stand out wasn't just the action. It was the poise and heart Carter brought to the role. She balanced fierce determination with kindness and empathy, showing that true heroism meant helping others, not just fighting villains. Each episode featured thrilling rescues, clever plots, and empowering moments. Girls saw a fearless female lead who could hold her own against any foe, while boys admired her cool gadgets and unwavering courage. Behind the scenes, Linda Carter became a real-life role model. Her grace, dignity, and commitment to the character made her a cultural icon. Wonder Woman wasn't just a superhero, she was a symbol of empowerment during a time when gender roles were being redefined. For 70s kids, spinning in circles and pretending to transform into Wonder Woman was a rite of passage. And for the rest of us, she remains a timeless reminder that strength comes in many forms. And compassion is one of the greatest. 9. Shazam. What kid hasn't dreamed of uttering one word and instantly becoming a superhero? In the 1970s, Shazam made that dream feel possible. The show followed Billy Batson, a teenager chosen by ancient gods to become Captain Marvel, a mighty superhero with powers drawn from the likes of Solomon, Hercules, and Zeus, whenever he shouted the word Shazam. Accompanied by his wise and mysterious mentor, simply called Mentor, Billy traveled the country in an RV, helping those in need. The format was episodic, but heartfelt. Every episode introduced a new town, a new problem, and a new lesson in honesty, courage, or kindness. Billy didn't just stop bad guys, he helped people make better choices. What made Shazam different from other superhero shows was its deep sense of morality. The action was toned down, but the emotional stakes were always high. And at the end of each episode, there was a direct message to viewers encouraging them to live with integrity and do the right thing. The show had a sense of calm, almost spiritual purpose, reminding children that being good was just as heroic as being strong. It wasn't about flashy powers, it was about helping others, no matter the cost. Though the effects were minimal and the story simple, Shazam left a deep impression. It gave kids a superhero they could actually relate to, one who looked like them, spoke like them, and wanted to make the world a better place. And for fans of the 70s, the call to adventure still echoes. Shazam 10. The Banana Splits. Adventure Hour 1. Banana, 2 banana, 3 banana, 4. If that jingle is stuck in your head, you were probably raised on the Banana Splits Adventure Hour. This wildly inventive variety show from the 70s was part psychedelic trip, part cartoon showcase, and all heart. Hosted by 4 costumed characters, Fleagle the dog, Bingo the ape, Drooper the lion, and Snorky the elephant, the Banana Splits were a rock band who also engaged in slapstick comedy and surreal skits in between animated segments. They drove their buggy around a colorful world of fun, laughter, and head-scratching weirdness. The real magic came from the show's blend of styles. In one episode, you might get a chase scene reminiscent of the Monkees, then immediately dive into an animated adventure like Arabian Nights or Danger Island, complete with cliffhangers and bold heroes. The costumes were bizarre, the humor zany, and the music surprisingly catchy. Kids were drawn in by the mayhem, while parents quietly appreciated the absurdity. What set the Banana Splits apart was its chaotic energy. Everything about the show felt alive and unfiltered. It didn't always make sense, but it never had to. It was pure, unstructured joy. For fans of the 70s, the Banana Splits weren't just mascots. They were icons of a time when Saturday mornings were magical, unpredictable, and full of wonder. 11. Lidsville. What if you fell into a magician's hat and discovered an entire world where everyone was a talking hat? That's the wild premise of Lidsville, one of the most bizarre and delightfully surreal shows of the 1970s. Created by Sid and Marty Krofft, Lidsville took Saturday morning television into a new dimension of psychedelic weirdness and imagination. The story follows Mark, a curious teenager who attends a magic show and gets more than he bargained for. After climbing onto the magician's stage, he falls into an oversized hat and lands in Lidsville, a whimsical land inhabited by living hats of all types: cowboy hats, chef hats, top hats, and more. Each hat had its own quirky personality and design. But Mark's new world wasn't all charm and whimsy. He quickly runs afoul of Horatio J. Hoodoo, a bumbling but menacing magician played by Charles Nelson Riley, who tries to trap Mark in the land forever. The episodes followed Mark's efforts to escape, aided by a group of friendly hats trying to outsmart Hoodoo and his magical mischief. What made Lidsville unforgettable wasn't just the imaginative concept, it was the eerie, dreamlike atmosphere. The bright colors, strange characters, and offbeat humor gave the show a trippy, almost hallucinogenic quality that stuck with viewers long after the screen faded to black. For kids growing up in the 70s, Lidsville felt like stepping into a living cartoon. It was unpredictable, unique, and defiantly strange, qualities that made it stand out in a sea of more traditional children's programming. To this day, Lidsville remains a cult classic, and for those who once journeyed through its hat-shaped world, the memories are as weird and wonderful as the show itself. 12. Captain Kangaroo. Long before fast-paced cartoons and noisy morning shows took over children's television, Captain Kangaroo offered a gentler, more thoughtful experience. Hosted by the kind-hearted Bob Keeshan, who played the titular captain, the show was a comforting presence in countless homes throughout the 70s. Every morning, children tuned in to visit the captain in his cozy treasure house filled with surprises, lessons, and laughter. He wasn't flashy or loud. He was warm, soft-spoken, and endlessly patient, like a favorite uncle or grandfather. His big kangaroo-sized pockets were filled with fun and unexpected treats, and every episode offered something new to discover. Supporting characters like the inventive Mr. Green Jeans, the mischievous Bunny Rabbit, and the curious Grandfather Clock helped bring a gentle magic to the show. There were storytelling segments, puppet skits, and educational moments, all delivered with warmth and sincerity. What made Captain Kangaroo so special was its tone. It didn't talk down to children or overwhelm them with noise. Instead, it respected their curiosity, invited them to think, and wrapped every lesson in kindness and humor. At a time when TV was becoming increasingly flashy and frenetic, Captain Kangaroo reminded kids that learning could be quiet, joyful, and deeply meaningful. For millions who grew up in the 70s, mornings with the captain weren't just routine. They were cherished. They offered comfort, consistency, and a little bit of wonder to start the day. Who wouldn't want to spend one more morning inside that gentle, magical treasure house? 13. Speed Buggy. What if your best friend was a talking dune buggy who raced through mysteries and danger at your side? That was the irresistible charm of Speed Buggy, a fast-paced 70s animated show that blended friendship, humor, and adventure into a joyride of Saturday morning fun. The show followed Speed Buggy, a lovable orange dune buggy with a sputtering voice and a heart of gold, and his 3 human companions, the clever mechanic Tinker, the smart and brave Debbie, and the athletic Mark. Together, they traveled around the world competing in races, solving mysteries, and facing off against bumbling bad guys and bizarre threats. Speed Buggy, with his signature vroom-a-zoom-zoom personality, wasn't just a vehicle. He was a friend. His bond with the team was at the core of every episode, and his childlike charm made him an instant favorite among young viewers. Visually, the show was colorful and full of energy, with high-speed chase scenes, slapstick comedy, and exotic backdrops that kept kids glued to their screens. It felt like Scooby-Doo on wheels, with a mechanical twist and a lot more racing stripes. What set Speed Buggy apart was its sense of loyalty and teamwork. Every episode emphasized the importance of sticking together, solving problems as a group, and looking out for one another, values that resonated deeply with its young audience. For fans of 70s animation, Speed Buggy remains a beloved relic of a time when cartoons were simple, spirited, and full of heart. And who wouldn't want to hop in that orange buggy and race off on one more globe-trotting adventure? 14. Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. Hey, hey, hey. Those 3 words kicked off one of the most influential and beloved Saturday morning shows of the 70s. Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. Created by comedian Bill Cosby, the series was groundbreaking for blending entertainment and education in a way that felt genuine, heartfelt, and utterly relatable. The show centered on Fat Albert and his group of friends, Mushmouth, Rudy, Dumb Donald, Bucky, and the rest, as they navigated life in a tough urban neighborhood. Set mostly in a junkyard clubhouse, the series explored real-world issues like peer pressure, bullying, honesty, self-esteem, and even substance abuse, all through the lens of childhood camaraderie. Each episode combined humor, adventure, and a valuable moral lesson, often ending with Fat Albert speaking directly to the audience. The show made no attempt to sugarcoat life's challenges, but it always highlighted the importance of doing the right thing, sticking together, and treating others with kindness. What made Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids revolutionary was its focus on African American youth, portraying their lives with dignity, humor, and depth. something rarely seen on television at the time. The characters felt authentic, the dialogue natural, and the messages enduring. Musical segments added rhythm and fun, with the kids forming a makeshift band using junkyard instruments to underscore each episode's theme. The mix of fun and moral substance created a show that was both engaging and thought-provoking. For viewers of the 70s, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids wasn't just a cartoon, it was a guidebook for growing up with integrity. And decades later, its messages still ring true. 15. Space Ghost. Before he became a late-night talk show parody, Space Ghost was one of the coolest intergalactic superheroes to ever hit Saturday morning television. With his flowing white cape, gold power bands, and commanding voice, Space Ghost didn't just save the day, he defined it. Originally aired in the 60s and rerun through the 70s, Space Ghost followed the titular hero as he patrolled the galaxy, battling a rogues gallery of sci-fi villains like Zorak, Brak, and Metalis. Alongside teenage sidekicks Jan and Jace and their mischievous monkey Blip, Space Ghost used invisibility, energy blasts, and intelligence to keep the universe safe. What made the show stand out was its striking animation and moody atmosphere. Hanna-Barbera crafted a futuristic world full of danger, color, and pulpy charm. The visuals were bold, the action constant, and the stories surprisingly mature for their target audience. But more than anything, Space Ghost represented a different kind of hero. He wasn't flashy or comedic, he was noble, calm, and serious. He faced every threat with unwavering courage, making him a role model for kids who dreamed of exploring the stars. For many fans, Space Ghost was their first introduction to the wider world of science fiction. The show sparked imaginations, introduced cosmic battles, and reminded kids that bravery could be quiet, focused, and deeply heroic. Today, he's remembered fondly by those who first watched him rocket through space on Saturday mornings. And for those fans, there's still nothing quite like hearing the call. Space Ghost to the rescue. 16. Josie and the Pussycats. What do you get when you combine rock music, fashion-forward flair, and globe-trotting adventure? You get Josie and the Pussycats, a bold and stylish 70s cartoon that thrilled kids with catchy tunes and daring escapades. At the heart of it all was Josie, a smart and fearless leader, along with Valerie, the brilliant bassist, and Melody, the lovable, ditzy drummer. The all-girl rock band wasn't just touring the world for concerts. They were constantly stumbling into mysteries, outwitting villains, and narrowly escaping danger with quick thinking and teamwork. From exotic islands to secret laboratories, the Pussycats faced it all, usually while wearing their signature leopard print leotards and playing guitar riffs mid-chase. What set the show apart wasn't just its musical numbers or colorful animation, it was its celebration of strong female leads. Josie and her crew weren't damsels in distress. They were smart, brave, and always in control of their own story. Valerie, in particular, stood out as one of the first black female characters in a leading role on a Saturday morning cartoon, breaking ground and paving the way for future representation. The theme song was instantly recognizable, and the show's upbeat, pop-forward vibe made every episode feel like a mini rock concert and mystery rolled into one. For kids growing up in the 70s, Josie and the Pussycats offered more than just fun. It provided adventure, style, and empowerment, all backed by a groovy soundtrack. And for fans today, these Pussycats are still purring with power, rhythm, and unforgettable charm. 17th Super Friends. What if your favorite superheroes didn't fight alone, but banded together as a single unstoppable team? That dream came true. In Super Friends, the ultimate 70s cartoon mashup that united the mightiest heroes from the DC Universe. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman, all under one roof. Every episode of Super Friends delivered action-packed missions where the team tackled natural disasters, supervillain plots, and cosmic threats. With the help of new recruits like the shape-shifting Wonder Twins, Zan and Jaina, and their mischievous space monkey, Gleek, the show blended heroic action with goofy sidekick charm in perfect Saturday morning harmony. What made Super Friends so iconic was its sheer scale. This wasn't just one superhero saving the day. It was a family of heroes working together, showing the power of unity, courage, and justice. Kids were mesmerized by the Hall of Justice, the booming narrator, and the sense that anything was possible when heroes teamed up. The show also slipped in moral lessons, encouraging kids to act with kindness, respect, and responsibility. And even though the battles were fantastic, the messages were always grounded in human values. With its bright animation, bold character designs, and epic showdowns, Super Friends became more than just a cartoon. It was a Saturday morning event. For many 70s kids, it was their first taste of the superhero universe, and a reminder that being super isn't about powers. It's about character. 18. The Bugaloos. They were teenagers. They were insects. They sang songs and spread joy through a magical forest. Welcome to the Bugaloos, one of the most whimsical and musically driven shows of the 1970s. Produced by Sid and Marty Krofft, this live-action fantasy series followed 4 insect-themed teens, Joy, Courage, Harmony, and IQ, living in the enchanted Tranquility Forest. Dressed in colorful costumes with gossamer wings, the Bugaloos used their talents and uplifting songs to protect their peaceful world from the jealous and eccentric villainess Bonita Bizarre. Played with zany gusto by Martha Raye, Bonita lived inside a jukebox and was constantly trying to steal the Bugaloos' fame and musical magic for herself. Every episode blended music, fantasy, and quirky comedy, often featuring performances by the Bugaloos themselves. Their upbeat songs weren't just catchy, they carried messages about friendship, perseverance, and positivity, resonating with a generation of young viewers looking for light in a turbulent world. Visually, the show was a psychedelic treat, filled with glittering mushrooms, talking flowers, and surreal set pieces that felt like something out of a storybook dream. And yet, beneath the fairy tale whimsy, the Bugaloos were grounded by their simple message: spread kindness, stick together, and never let envy or selfishness win. Though the Bugaloos only lasted one season, it left an indelible mark. For many kids of the 70s, they weren't just characters. They were role models with wings, singing songs of joy in a world that needed a little more magic. 19th, Schoolhouse Rock. Who says learning has to be boring? In the 1970s, Schoolhouse Rock proved that grammar, math, history, and science could be as catchy as your favorite pop song. This animated musical series aired during Saturday morning cartoons and turned short educational lessons into unforgettable tunes that kids and their parents still sing today. The genius behind Schoolhouse Rock was its ability to simplify complex topics using music and clever animation. Conjunction Junction taught sentence structure with a toe-tapping melody. I'm Just a Bill turned legislative process into a lovable cartoon. Even math equations got a musical makeover with hits like 3 is a Magic Number. Each segment lasted only a few minutes, but packed a powerful educational punch. The combination of colorful visuals, storytelling, and melody made lessons stick long after the TV was turned off. It wasn't just learning, it was fun. What set Schoolhouse Rock apart was its total respect for kids' intelligence. It didn't talk down to them or sugarcoat. It trusted that if you made something engaging, kids would understand and remember. Over time, Schoolhouse Rock became more than an educational tool. It became a cultural touchstone. Decades later, teachers still play these songs in classrooms, and nostalgic adults can still hum every word. For fans of the 70s, Schoolhouse Rock was the rare moment when TV taught you something you actually wanted to learn, and you probably still know what a conjunction does. The new Scooby-Doo movies. Scooby-Doo and the gang have solved a lot of mysteries, but in the new Scooby-Doo movies, they had help from some of the most unexpected allies ever seen on Saturday morning TV. This 70s reboot of the classic cartoon gave the Mystery Inc. crew an extended runtime and a twist. Each week, they teamed up with a different celebrity guest. Whether it was Batman and Robin, the Three Stooges, Sonny and Cher, or even Don Knotts, the guest stars added a new layer of excitement to the spooky, comical mysteries. These crossovers weren't just gimmicks, They created some of the most memorable and entertaining episodes in Scooby-Doo history. With longer episodes, the show had more time for laughs, suspense, and character development. Fred, Velma, Daphne, Shaggy, and of course, Scooby got to dig deeper into mysteries that were more complex than the original show's format allowed. The charm of the series lay in the novelty of the mashups. Seeing Scooby-Doo ride in the Batmobile or share a stage with Mama Cass was both surreal and delightful. It blurred the lines between fiction and celebrity in a way that felt magical to kids. The animation was classic Hanna-Barbera, and the spooky settings were still there. Abandoned amusement parks, haunted mansions, and creaky castles. But with added star power, the stakes felt higher and the laughs even louder. For fans of the 70s, the new Scooby-Doo movies was a fresh, exciting twist on a beloved formula. It showed that sometimes even the best mystery solvers need a little help from their famous friends. The 1970s wasn't just a golden age of television, it was a wonderland of imagination, innovation, and unforgettable characters. From magical islands to musical bug bands, these shows shaped childhoods and sparked creative dreams. Drop your memories in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to keep the nostalgia alive. Until next time, stay groovy